So, holy shit, what a night. If anything, we should just be happy that Bernie Sanders was able to hold on. Yeah, Bernie Sanders did take a beating, but he's still the underdog. He's still in this thing. They're within the margin of error. There's still 2,500 more delegates to get. But this was definitely a Joe Biden night. And I heard that Obama was the one that brokered the deal of Pete and Amy dropping out. And now if Mike Bloomberg drops out, this is an uphill battle. This is a fight. This is a fight. And I am kind of like crystal ball, so if they want, the establishment picks Joe Biden, then that just means bring it on. Bring it on. Because we got a lot of contests coming up, actually March 10th, March 14th, 17th. So you have a whole bunch of states, about 1,000 more delegates. So it's a good statistical sample, and it's pretty close. And so I want to see, now that people know that basically it's just, between Joe and Bernie, what is going to happen when it comes into, the next contest. So, Liz, Mike, Tulsi, they're all out. They're as far out as you can go, but I don't know if Mike has, if his ego will allow him to say, okay, Joe's the man. That would consolidate the establishment vote, and then hopefully, Bernie should, to bring unity, bring Liz, get her to drop out, offer the VP spot to her, for God's sakes, and if she's, rejects it, then it was offered to her. All right, so let's just begin to talk about, what happened with today. What in the flying fuck happened with today? So, some exciting news on Tulsi front. So, in terms of the Democratic Party cheating Bernie Sanders, they've done a lot of, basically very questionable things. The biggest thing that I'll point out that has been not fair has been the debate. Power is, perception is power. And if you're not on the debate stage, then people don't think that you do have a chance. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Oh, they don't have a chance, so we won't give them a chance. What if they, had a chance? She got her delegate. She got 2 delegates, actually, from American Samoa, which is where she was born. And Mike Bloomberg is going to take American Samoa. So Mike Bloomberg actually had 1 victory in terms of states. And that matters in terms of, again, perception is power. But ultimately, it's the delegate count, right? So you got to get down to the nitty-gritty. And even though Joe won all these states, not all the states, Joe's going to win 10 states, and Bernie Sanders is going to win 4 states. So even though Joe won 10 states, Bernie come in second in every single one of them. So therefore, he was able to sort of stem the flow, right? So yeah, so the Joe won 10 states, Bernie Sanders won 4 states, and then Mike Bloomberg won 1 state. So let's just list off the states that Joe Biden won. So Joe Biden won Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Massachusetts. Elizabeth Warren's Massachusetts, beating Bernie and Elizabeth. They actually split the vote on Massachusetts. The only one that did that. Now, Maine might have done that too. Okay, anyways, Joe Biden won Massachusetts, Arkansas, North Carolina, Virginia, Oklahoma, and Minnesota. So that was Amy Klobuchar's endorsement was huge for Minnesota. Joe Biden gets Minnesota, so that's 8. And then Joe Biden's going to take Maine, and he's going to take Texas. So he's got, all the South, plus Maine, plus Massachusetts, plus Minnesota. So that's, what a haul, right? Jesus Christ, 10 states. And then Bernie Sanders wins California. So he got the big enchilada, right? They said that's the whole game. That's the whole game. So he got, California, he got Utah, he got Colorado, and he got Vermont. He kicked ass in Vermont. And Colorado is a 4-way split, so was Utah. So in a way, they, Joe stemmed the tide of Bernie too. So how does all this work out? Now, I did a lot of math, but ultimately it was just an estimate. Okay, so I did a lot of math, and the math that I did was I'm estimating the delegates. So there's, the district, and then there's the statewide, but I just did it all in one lump sum, so that's why it's an estimate. But let's just take one example. So Alabama, Joe wins Alabama by 63%, and then Bernie had 16%. You had to beat the 15% threshold, and then if you distributed them, the delegates proportionally, well, you're not, it's just 63%, 16%. I added those two, you got 79, and then I just took 63 divided by 79 and then multiplied it by the total delegate 52, and then that got me the percentage of, of each one of they give me the percentage, and then that gives me the delegates for each one of them. And so therefore, I estimated with Alabama, let's see, it was 63% and 16%, and so therefore Joe wound up getting 42 delegates in Alabama, and then Bernie gets 10. Okay? And so the way that the delegate count, this is an estimate, okay, but I did a lot of math, so I think there's something to this. And I think it's a quicker estimate, and you have to, sit and actually calculate all this shit. So, what happened tonight? So the states, I told you about the states. Joe did do, a fantastic job. I'm going to have to admit that I'm going to have to, really, I underestimated Joe. He just bumbles all the time. He's right-wing. He has no exciting ideas, but what the hell? He's confident. Is it his pearly whites? Is he good-looking? He's got good posture. What the hell is it? He's always yelling, but he's, trying to fit he's parallel parking his old man thoughts. He's like, so, yeah, what's going on? He's marginally better than Donald, so I have his name recognition. I wonder if that's like his major strength. I've underestimated the national polls, and I underestimated Joe Biden, so I have to do a little bit of introspection on that. But the numbers, okay, go back to the numbers. What happened? What happened? Well, to actually calculate all this, I went back to Iowa and New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. Now, I don't know if Pete and I, assumed the worst. So this is the worst news that you could possibly hear tonight. It can only get better from here. But the Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, you had 4 elections prior. You had Pete and Amy was in there, but now they dropped, so where their delegates go? I think they get to choose where the delegates, I think the delegates themselves either get to choose, or I think Pete and Amy get to say, who they want their delegates to go to. So that means I assume that Pete and Amy's delegates are going to go to Joe Biden. And that means Iowa. Who won Iowa? Was it Pete? Was it Bernie? It was actually Joe Biden. Who won New Hampshire? Was it Pete? Was it, Bernie? It was actually Joe Biden. So that's unfortunate, but I went ahead and calibrated those first 4 elections. Joe was up 87, Bernie 60, Elizabeth Warren with 8. And then I, went ahead and just did all the numbers. I'm not going to explain, or I'm not going to tell you all the numbers. But the total amount, okay, so Joe Biden wins with 650 delegates so far, including the Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, so plus Super Tuesday, plus all this, the 15 contest of today. So he's got 650 total. Bernie Sanders has 566, and then Elizabeth Warren has 68, and then Mike Bloomberg has 213, and Tulsi Gabbard has 2. So 650, 68, 566, 213, and 2. If you need 1,991 total delegates to beat the majority. Nobody's even close to that. Joe Biden is about 33%. He's got 33% of all the delegates that he needs. Elizabeth Warren has 3% of all the delegates she needs. Bernie Sanders has 28 delegates of all the 28% of the total delegates of the 1991, the majority that he needs, and then Mike Bloomberg has 11%, and Tulsi has not even 1%. So that's out of the total 1991. If you put all the delegates and just compare and contrast each other, Joe Biden is in the lead with 650 over Bernie Sanders 566, which is an 85 delegate difference. So Bernie Sanders has to make up 85 delegates. Now, when you add them together and compare and contrast each other, Joe's got 43% of all the delegates. Elizabeth Warren has 5%. Bernie Sanders has 38%. And Mike Bloomberg has 14%, which means that Joe Biden is in the lead by 5%, which means it's in the margin of error, which means there's wiggle room. Perhaps, this could all shake out in Bernie's favor. Maybe it could shake, that when it comes to the districts and the statewide and the formulas and all this other bullshit. I think ranked choice voting would have been a lot easier in this bullshit, and you also guarantee a majority victor. I'll make a quick comment, too, about how they're going to sit there and, try to stop Bernie Sanders at the convention because, if one person doesn't get the majority, then that means it goes to round two. Well, Joe Biden, since he's getting the lead, well, we could actually focus on both, winning. We want to, get the majority, but if we don't get the majority, we can stop Joe Biden from getting the majority. So we could use their own strategy against them. But it is, Bernie needs to win big in the future contest. He's got to win big. He's got to win huge. And I think he can, just basically, it's the difference between, I looked at 2016, you only got basically 5-point, 10-point delegate differences, 40 points. And so that's why I think these next couple contests are going to be very important because we could see if, Bernie can sort of crawl his way back, kind of, chip the, I don't know, the armor. I don't know, somehow, I don't know the analogy, I don't know the metaphor, but Bernie can climb back slowly but surely. He can, take 10 delegates here, 5 delegates here, 20 delegates, the bigger the better, but ultimately I think that, there's 2,500, there's 3 more months of contest that's in front of us, so Bernie isn't out of it. This was a big hit for Bernie, since he was basically first place for the first 3 contests, and then fucking South Carolina, basically that goddamn nuclear strike just turned this thing completely around. And is there anything else I want to talk about? So, yeah, great, big night for Joe Biden. He's a piece of shit. What a, disgusting. I don't want to get into it, but what the fuck, America? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? God damn it. I didn't want this to go to the July convention. We're going to go all the way to the July convention. This shit's exciting, right? So basically the schedule of the Democratic primary is doing what it's supposed to do. It's exciting. There's all this, competition and all this excitement and whatnot. So, yeah, this competition is generating excitement, and that's good for turnout. And if they, keep doing this all the way to the July convention, I don't think it'll tear the party apart, actually, unless it goes to the convention and it's a broker convention and it's just a total shit show. These conventions can really, turn into the second vote. They can vote whoever they want to, but they could actually nominate somebody that's not even on the list. You know what? Fuck it. None of these Democrats are good enough. We're going to nominate Oprah. We're going to nominate Colin Powell. We're going to nominate, just Russell Brand. We're just going to pull somebody up out of the, woodwork, and this is the person. This is our compromise dark horse candidate. That's possible because once you get to, future rounds of voting, they'll probably try to, vote Joe, vote Bernie, vote Liz. And if none of those get a majority, then they'll just say, fuck it, let's just choose this random person out in the corner. And that's how these rounds of voting could go up to like 14, 30, 50 rounds of voting. Sometimes it gets pretty absurd. So the convention could just absolutely get out of control. All you need is one delegate, really, in order to sort of get your name up on the ballot to be a contender. But I think once it happens, they vote a couple times and none of them are going to get the majority, well, they need to get a compromise candidate. So perhaps, there's a candidate that all 5, of these candidates would all agree on. And if they can get the majority, that's all it takes, right? Ranked choice voting. We need ranked choice voting. If we had ranked choice voting, we would have fair elections. And then independents would have a chance, and then, we wouldn't actually, this would have been perfect for the Democratic primary. Ranked elections would have been perfect. and it would have given, you know, more of your long-shot candidates a chance. You could vote for your dream candidate, and then you could just vote for your safety candidate as your number 2 or 3 choice. So when Tulsi gets, you know, 0%, and you wanted Tulsi, but, you know, she's the last place, then your next vote will go to the safe candidate, whoever is your safe candidate. Bernie is the safe candidate. Joe is dangerous. Joe is riskier. He's the right-wing. He's the Hillary 2.0, and he's going to lose. He's going to lose. So this is, you know, terrible news, but since he's not out, that's, you know, fantastic, right? So he's not out. It was a, you know, gut shot. It was a body, you know, Bernie Sanders got body checked hardcore by Joe Biden. One thing I guess I'll say about Joe is his rhetoric, his anti-Donald Trump rhetoric is pretty good. It got Donald all, you know, hot and bothered that he almost impeached himself with that Ukraine scandal. So he's, you know, Joe Biden was talking about doing push-ups and all this stuff, but he's talking about, you know, basically fighting Donald, and that's pretty cocky, right, to be like, oh, yeah, that president, well, we should just take him out behind the school. So, you know, they both use violent metaphors, but it'd be interesting to see if they get up there debating each other. You know, people talk all this shit, and then they get on the debate stage, and then it's like they're best buddies. It's like, what the fuck? I thought you were going to, you know. So it'd be interesting to see if they, so I'm just trying to think, like, what the fuck is America thinking? Why the fuck do you think Joe Biden is your man? Bernie Sanders is your man. How are you going to, you know, you fucked up one time. You had an opportunity, historical opportunity 4 years ago, and you fucked it up. You didn't give me my Muhammad Ali. He's a champion. Bernie Sanders is a champion. Give me Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump. Quit fucking around with this shit. Jesus Christ. Joe Biden, he just, you know, spouts off at the mouth and says dumb shit, right-wing, neoliberal, pervert. What good is Joe Biden? Just because he's not a pile of dog shit, oh, you know, we got to beat Trump. Anything is better than Donald. So if we had, you know, ran just a piece of dog shit as a Democratic candidate, that, you know, that would get the vote, right? So to say vote blue no matter who, these assholes, you guys are going to fight against Bernie, you fucking hypocritical sons of bitches. Uh-oh, Bernie's going to win. Vote blue no matter. Well, we're not saying that no more, are we? Now it's like, oh, we got to get our shit together and consolidate. And Joe's your Joe's your establishment pick, huh? Okay. Bring it on. Bring it on. I guess that's the main thrust of everything. The future contest, so you have Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and Washington on March 10th. That's 365 more delegates. You got Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and Ohio. So Ohio, that's, you know, that's a bunch of the Confederacy. Joe Biden also won the Confederacy. I mean, Minnesota, Maine, and Massachusetts are interesting. I mean, it's freezing cold up there. So Tennessee, they had all those tornadoes and shit. So all the people couldn't get out and go vote. So you see, okay, March, Georgia, Puerto Rico, and then you have, you know, 5 more states in April 4th to the 7th, and then another 6 states on the 28th, and then in May you got 6 states, so that's 1,000 delegates, and then June 2nd you got, 215? Yeah, 215, 4 states. And then you got the Virgin Islands, and there's 7 delegates with the Virgin Islands, and then the Virgin Islands ends all this. So total, you got 2,500 more delegates total. The states that's coming up is Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and Washington. So you got 6. Those are the states to look out for, because I feel like this is very close, but it was like, you know, with the fucking Bloomberg effect and, you know, Elizabeth Warren's in there. So I think without those curveballs, I think people, the electorate, this is what people were talking about 6 months ago, is going to be, you know, between Joe and Bernie, and here we are, it's Joe and Bernie. So everything else is just a bunch of distraction between that. And so now that with that crystal clarity, we could go in and basically, you know, it's just Bernie v. Joe, really. So the DNC is talking about, Tulsi has a delegate, so she can get on the debate stage, but the DNC is acting like they're not going to let her do that. The DNC, in fact, says they're going to change the threshold, keep moving the goalposts, so that way Tulsi doesn't even get in the debate. But to be honest with you, only Joe and Bernie should be in the debates if you want to talk, you know, be for real, for real. but they're going to, somehow get Elizabeth and Mike in there, and that's how the DNC is cheating. They are cheating. They're changing the rules to allow Mike Bloomberg to get in there, but not a Tulsi Gabbard. So they are just, carrying Mike Bloomberg all the way to the promised land. The power is perception is power. So since Mike stood up there along with the other ones, I think Bernie, I don't know. I feel like they shouldn't have stood up there next to it. They changed the rules, and if they really were against it, then they shouldn't have, they should have struck. They should have united and said, we're not going to do this. We're going to do our own debates, with just the progressives. It's just going to be Liz and Bernie and Joe. If Liz and Bernie could get Joe in that conversation, I don't know. Okay, so anyways, just make sure I covered everything. Yeah, so the percentage of all the delegates, I know I mentioned this once, but this just be the last thing. So he gets 43%. So it's within the margin of error. But let's assume that Joe Biden, gets 43% up until the convention. Well, that's a plurality. That's a plurality. He didn't win the majority, so then the superdelegates, get kicked in. So that means he would be denied the nomination with the first vote. They said, let the rules go, right? Go through the process. Do the rules when they were the underdogs, when they didn't have any of the delegate votes. And so he's only got a plurality. He's only got a plurality. And that's, I guess I will mention that because Mike Bloomberg, he, gained big when it come to California, when it came to Utah, Colorado, Arkansas, Tennessee, and then he won Samoa, right? But for Mike Bloomberg, he won big because he's, this guy out of nowhere beat Elizabeth Warren. Mike Bloomberg got 213 delegates, which how many people could even say they got one delegate? Tulsi got 2 delegates. But if you want to add Mike Bloomberg to Joe Biden, then that's a resounding victory. That's going to smash Bernie. And so that means you would want, Liz and Tulsi to drop out and just make it Joe versus Bernie. Just make it Joe versus Bernie, which is where it's going to go anyways. But we got to see what the hell Elizabeth Warren's up to. Why is she basically siphoning just a few votes from Bernie? She's not going to win it. And then what the hell's Mike doing? He basically was saying that he's the electable candidate because Joe wasn't doing, picking up now that Joe's picking up the slack, now Joe's doing okay, so now you don't even need the Mike, Bloomberg in there. So if he's trying to help out and just, help the party and shit, he'll step down. But if he's got an ego, Liz Warren, I don't know if they're angling for the administration or what they're trying to do. Maybe Mike is trying to get part of the administration. Maybe Mike wants to get part of Joe's administration. And, he'll give all his votes. He'll endorse Joe and, bow down to the establishment. If all these people actually do, I don't think Bernie and Elizabeth Warren could withstand. I don't know. If you add Mike and Joe's votes and Bernie and Liz's, Mike and Joe win. So the establishment, I think there's 4 lanes, too. This would be the last thing. There's 4 lanes. I see the 4 lanes right here. You got the right wing, far left wing, and then you got the center left, center right. So you got 2 establishment lanes, and you got 2 anti-establishment lanes. But the 2 establishment lanes, Mike and Joe, they have, a lot more votes between them than Bernie and Liz. So, therefore, when Mike endorses Joe, that'll be a huge boost. If Liz endorses Bernie, that would be a slight boost, but at least you don't have, anybody siphoning off the votes. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. It would be great. It'd be best for Bernie if Liz endorsed Bernie and Mike stayed in, and then Mike and Joe kept splitting up their votes. But, who knows? I don't know. Does the establishment have their shit together? Can Obama convince Mike Bloomberg to step down? So anyways, it's not over. It's not over until the fat lady sings, and the fat lady ain't going to sing until the July convention. And even then, right, you got third parties, and you got independent movements, and you got, it's not over till the fat lady sings. So up until, I guess, Election Day, and up until November, the first Tuesday in November of this year. And in fact, not even then. You still got to get inaugurated, right? So you have to win that election and then the inauguration. And then, once you've been sworn by the Chief Justice, you've, done the oath of office, then maybe I might believe that Bernie Sanders can become president. And Hillary Clinton, please keep on speaking up. Can you please keep on? Can you keep? That helps. You're, a super PAC all onto yourself. The more you come out of the woodwork and just speak your dumb, hateful, resentful bullshit. God, Bernie fucking campaigned so much for Hillary. So he's if that doesn't make you a Democrat, that makes Jesus. I couldn't campaign for Hillary. I could not hold my nose and vote for her. I voted for Jill Stein. I've been voting for a Green Party the whole time. I'm giving the Democrats a chance now. Anyways.